My husband tricked me into divorcing him because his mistress was pregnant. I looked at the liver cancer diagnosis in my hand, along with the positive pregnancy test, and let out a sigh of relief. The diagnosis is my husband's. The child belongs to his best friend. In order to keep me from suspecting anything, my husband gave me the house and all the savings. I looked at him sympathetically and said, "Husband, aren't you afraid I might take this too seriously?" He smiled gently. "Then I'll accept whatever comes." I shook my head. How pitiful. I turned around and married his best friend. He was in disbelief. "Wife, don't you love me anymore?" I clutched my wallet. "Don't try to play the victim. I'm not your wife, and I'm not obligated to take care of you." Chapter 01. My husband, Jack, is gentle and considerate, and he treats me incredibly well. But that doesn't stop him from cheating on me with his younger schoolmate, Emma. When I first found out, it felt like my world had collapsed. But since Jack works in investment banking and makes 100,000 yuan a month, I couldn't bear to let him go. Also, he has a close buddy, a rich second-generation guy who is handsome and polite. I quite like him. Before, since I was already married to Jack, I could only think about it in my heart. After learning about his affair, I no longer felt morally bound. Chapter 02. My husband's best friend is named Victor. He's a colleague of Jack's. Whenever they work on projects or Jack gets drunk, Victor is always the one who brings him home. The reason I found out about Jack's affair is because one time Victor brought him home after a night of heavy drinking. He said to me with a meaningful look, "Sister-in-law, you really should accompany Jack more often to these social events. Otherwise, men can't be controlled." After settling Jack in the bedroom, Victor left. I quickly followed him out and asked, "What do you mean? Explain yourself." Reluctantly, Victor showed me intimate photos of Jack and his younger schoolmate. That younger schoolmate is a pretentious coquette. She had been trying to seduce him since college, but Jack was determined to stay with me, so I didn't pay attention. Chapter 03. I went through Jack's phone. I found nothing suspicious on his main WeChat account, but he had a secret account. It was hidden discreetly among a bunch of apps. The two of them frequently exchanged explicit private photos. I recorded all the chat history. I even thought about making a PowerPoint presentation and exposing them publicly, but that seemed too lenient for him. Besides, since he's so good at making money, I really couldn't let him go. It's been 2 months since I found out about Jack's affair. I've been dragging things out. During this time, Victor has shown me unusual care. Chapter 04. One time, Victor brought my husband back home again. My husband was dead drunk. The two of us struggled to lift him onto the bed in the bedroom, and just as I was trying to take off his clothes, I suddenly felt a hand on my waist. Then a warm body pressed against me. Startled, I whispered, "What are you doing?" Victor hugged me and whispered, "Sister-in-law, I've liked you for a long time. Can't you tell?" I struggled. "Let me go first. Jack is cheating on you. Why are you still with him? I'm younger than him, richer than him, and I won't cheat. Sister-in-law, be with me. I'll treat you well. How about it?" Just as I was about to refuse, he kissed me. Chapter 05. After 3 years of marriage, my husband and I have sex very rarely now, once a month, and we don't kiss much anymore either. I used to think my husband was drained by work. Then I figured he must be drained by his little schoolmate. Now, Victor's hot, sticky kiss stirred something inside me. With my husband still asleep next to me, it felt even more thrilling, but I steeled myself and slapped him hard. "You, get out!" He held his face, still flushed, and left. Chapter 06. One weekend, new neighbors moved into the apartment upstairs. It was actually Victor. He had just graduated and had started working in investment banking. He came over enthusiastically to tell us he had moved in. From now on, we'd be neighbors. My husband didn't suspect anything. Not long after, my husband said he had to go work overtime. As soon as he left, Victor knocked on the door. He said, "He's gone to see Emma again." I asked, "How do you know?" He clicked his tongue and then showed me a photo. It was sent by Emma. "Why did she send it to you?" She invited me to sleep with her. I refused. So she sent it to prove how attractive she is, saying she's never short on men. Chapter 07. I rolled my eyes. I was about to close the door, but he blocked it and came in. In one swift motion, he pulled me into his arms. My face instantly turned red, and my heart started racing. Sister-in-law, he betrayed you. Why are you still being faithful to him? I pushed against his chest. What are you doing? Be careful, or I'll call the police. Don't tell me you don't have any feelings for me. Why else would you sneak glances at me? I bit my lip and whispered, how do I know you're not sent by my husband to seduce me on purpose, just to catch me cheating and force me into a divorce? A surprised look flashed across his charming face. Then he burst out laughing. You think you're in a TV drama? I snorted. Chapter 08. Then he immediately grabbed me and threw me onto the sofa. He pinned my struggling hands above my head, pressing me down so I couldn't move. He chuckled softly. How about this? I'll give you some leverage afterward. You can go report me for assault, okay? He started kissing me, and I really struggled. After a while, he asked, there's no camera in your house, right? I shook my head. There shouldn't be, but he still got up, pulled out his phone, opened some apps, and scanned the room to check. I sat there with my clothes in disarray, my face flushed, watching him. I kind of wanted it too. It had been a long time since I'd been with my husband. It was like being a widow while he was still alive. I wasn't even 30 yet, but I still have needs. Chapter 09. After finishing his scan, he lunged at me again. When he was pulling down my pants, I stopped him. He thought I was just pretending, but I stopped him and said, do you have a health report? He wilted. Then he cursed under his breath. He pulled out his phone and showed me his health report, but it was from a month ago. I didn't feel reassured. He left, said he was going to get a health check at the hospital. He left faster than my husband. Chapter 10. All I could think about was his seductive face, and the feeling of his hot breath. His kisses, like a fish's, pressed against my skin. I went to change into another pair of pants. I kind of understood my husband now. It really felt good. After 3 years of marriage, the passion between us had long faded. I hadn't felt this excited or thrilled in a long time. In the afternoon, Victor came again. This time, he was wearing a suit. As I was looking at the report, he pulled off his tie and tied my hands. While kissing me, he asked, sister-in-law, do you feel more at ease now? I weakly resisted. No, that only excited him more. Like he'd been injected with adrenaline, his eyes turned red with desire. Chapter 11. After it was over, he held me in his arms, lying on the bed I shared with my husband. I was a bit scared. What if my husband comes back? He picked up his phone. He's not back. They're still soaking in the hot springs. I just replied with an "oh." Then I started kissing him again. I wanted more. It had been so long. Chapter 12. When my husband came back, he looked exhausted. I showed concern. Honey, you don't look well. Are you feeling okay? I had seen the messages Emma sent to Victor to enjoy himself more. My husband had been taking pills. That's also why he couldn't perform when he got home. We only did it once a month, and it always felt like a routine chore, dry, with no passion. It wasn't enjoyable at all. My husband's expression changed slightly, and he said, I've been working too much overtime. I'm just a bit tired. Then you should get more rest. I poured him a glass of water. Then I went to the washing machine to take out the bed sheets and hang them up. There were too many marks this afternoon. I had to wash them. Chapter 13. My husband started working and socializing again, at least 3 times a week. He would drink. Every time. He'd come home completely wasted. Victor would bring him back. I'd unbutton my husband's shirt, and Victor would start undressing me. Sometimes I'd look at my husband's face, feeling incredibly nervous. But Victor was just getting more and more excited. I was starting to get a taste for it. My husband had a 2-week business trip coming up. That was normal. That's how their projects worked. Chapter 14. I moved directly into Victor's place and started living with him. It was just a matter of moving upstairs. During this time, my resentment toward my husband eased quite a bit. Before, I used to hate him for betraying me, but now I understand him, because married life was really boring. And life is so short, why tie yourself down to just one person? If I had both a husband and a lover, my energy would be divided. With less focus on my husband, he wouldn't feel like my love was too heavy or suffocating. It's a win-win-win situation. I figure my husband must think the same. After all, he still lets me manage his salary card. Every month, the money gets deposited into our joint account, but that joint account is in my name. Chapter 15. 2 more months passed like this. In these 2 months, it seemed like my husband had worn himself out. His complexion was getting worse and worse. Coincidentally, my best friend gave me a discount on a health checkup, and I figured that even though my husband and I hadn't shared a bed for months, he's been out there messing around, so it's better to get him checked. So I sent him for a checkup. The results hadn't come back yet, but Victor sent me a screenshot. It was a message Emma had sent him. "Wanna play with a pregnant woman?" "I'm pregnant." I bit my finger. She's pregnant? I was starting to feel anxious. Chapter 16. A cash cow like my husband is really hard to find. Victor is someone to play with. Nothing more. He won't take responsibility. If Emma is pregnant, would my husband divorce me? I haven't figured out a plan yet. The hospital called me and said my husband's health check results weren't good. I hurried to the hospital to get them. It was suspected liver cancer. They said it needs to be confirmed with further tests. But my best friend said it's almost certain. And with the way my husband socializes, always smoking and drinking, passing out like the dead when he's drunk, it's highly likely. Chapter 17. I looked at the report and suddenly felt a bit nauseous. My best friend gave me a sympathetic look. "Don't tell me your husband has cancer. And now you're pregnant?" I frowned and went to buy a test. I was really pregnant. My best friend gave me some heartfelt advice. "Don't think I'm being cruel, but you can't keep this child. Not only is he probably going to die soon, but raising a kid as a single woman will be tough. Besides, with him having liver cancer, there's a high chance the kid will have a genetic predisposition for it too." I asked, confused. "What do you mean?" She explained that if someone in the family has cancer, other relatives have a much higher chance of getting it too. I was shocked and quickly called Victor. His deep, magnetic voice came through the phone. "Miss me already?" I asked him, "Does anyone in your family have cancer?" He paused for a moment. "Nope, my grandpa died at 80. My grandma at 79. My grandparents from my father's side are still alive. My grandpa's 88 and my grandma's 80. Why are we doing full family health checks now before getting in bed?" I just responded with an "oh." "And no other relatives either?" "My family's small. Not many people want to meet them?" I rolled my eyes. Shameless. I still have some dignity. I hung up the phone, and my best friend stared at me, completely baffled. Chapter 18. I giggled. The father of my child is perfectly healthy. He even showed me his health report not long ago. My best friend gave me a thumbs up. "You're amazing. One at home and one outside." I smiled shyly and told her what had happened. When I mentioned my husband's affair, my best friend got so angry she could kill him, calling him a scumbag. Disgusting. Worse than an animal. She said she always knew he wasn't a good person. When it came to Victor, my best friend said, "Girl, you're awesome. Impressive. You're a legend." I didn't want to get rid of the baby at all. Even though Victor's morals were questionable, he was good-looking, well-educated, and had decent genes. Plus, my husband wasn't doing well. I planned to use the baby to get Victor to marry me. That way, I'd have another cash cow earning $100,000 a month. But I didn't want to take care of my husband anymore. I didn't want to live with him either. It just didn't feel lucky. Chapter 19. I went home, and before I had a chance to come up with a plan, I saw my husband looking at me, all excited. He grabbed my hand and said, "Honey, our company is working with a real estate developer, and they're offering discounts to employees. If you're single and don't own property, you can get 20% off." I looked at him, confused, because he was so good at making money. We'd already used up our housing quota. We had 2 properties under our names, and we were still paying 30,000 yuan a month on the mortgage. Thinking about this, I started to feel uneasy again. My salary is only 9,000 yuan a month. If I lost my husband, I wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage. Chapter 20. My husband continued. Honey, we can't pass up this deal. Huh? I stared at him, confused. He was dying, and all he could think about was money. He said, we should get a fake divorce. Put all the properties under your name, and I'll go buy that discounted house through the company. Fake divorce? But it would be a real divorce certificate. I didn't say anything. I just couldn't believe it. Are you trying to trick me into divorcing you? My husband quickly said. How could I do that? Why would I want to trick you into a divorce? I'm giving you the house and the money. Don't you believe me? I still didn't believe him. That night, I gave him the wine my best friend had gifted me. He passed out like the dead. I unlocked his phone, and that's when I learned the truth. Chapter 21. Emma texted him, I'm already pregnant. Aren't you going to marry me? What's so good about that woman? She only knows how to spend your money. She makes just 9,000 yuan a month. If we get married, our household income would be over 2 million a year, and you're about to get promoted. Your monthly salary will jump to 300,000. Do you really want to split your assets with her? Aw, my husband is about to get a promotion and a raise. He's really capable. I envy him. Such a high salary. If I were him, I'd probably choose Emma too. She's fun, and her salary is way higher than mine. In that light, I guess my husband does have some genuine feelings for me, since he didn't divorce me straight away. My husband didn't reply. Emma continued, my child can't be born illegitimate, or I'll have no face left. If you don't marry me, I'll make a PowerPoint about everything you've done and send it to the company. Because of that threat, my husband decided to placate Emma for now, planning to fake divorce me and marry her. I checked his search history and found he had been looking up how to buy fake documents. I wasn't sure if he planned to trick Emma or me with them. Chapter 22. The next day, my husband brought up the topic again. This time, he even brought Victor along to persuade me. They kept saying how the houses from that real estate client were a once-in-a-lifetime deal. I still insisted that I didn't want a divorce. My husband promised to give me the house and the savings, guaranteeing he wouldn't cheat me. Reluctantly, I nodded. We wrote up an agreement, went to the civil affairs office, and got the divorce certificate. My husband said that to make it look real, he'd move into the company's single dormitory. I held his hand. Honey, you won't abandon me, will you? I looked pitiful. I know I'm not as good at making money or charming people as those women outside. But honey, I truly love you. Boo-hoo. My husband hugged me and affectionately stroked my face. Those women outside are just materialistic and worldly. How can they compare to your pure and kind heart? Don't worry. When I make more money, I'll buy you a bag. I nodded. My husband moved out. Then Victor sent me another screenshot. It was a message from Emma to him. I'm married. My husband had gone and married Emma that very afternoon. Chapter 23. I put the health check report in my bag, ready to bring it to my husband's office. And Victor, I need to find a way to marry him. Otherwise, how will I pay the mortgage? Even though I still have plenty of savings. I'm a stingy woman. I only like money coming in, not going out. Chapter 24. Although my husband cheated on me, he's been pretty decent to me. I still can't hide his illness from him. Besides, now that he has a new wife, the two of them can face the illness together and demonstrate the greatness of love. I have to give them that opportunity. As for Victor, I haven't thought of a good plan yet. The day after the divorce, I went to my husband's office. I brought a packed lunch that I had bought, and then I saw my husband and Emma coming out, arm in arm. The lunchbox fell to the ground with a loud bang. The noise was so loud it caught a lot of attention. Tears started streaming down my face, like beads from a broken necklace. My husband immediately let go of Emma's arm and, in a panic, called out to me, honey. Chapter 25. I took a step back and shook my head. You and her, you. Let me explain. Explain what? Emma's sharp voice interrupted. You're already divorced. Stop dragging this out. Emma looked at me disdainfully. Sis. Jack is my husband now. I hope you can respect that and stop being a third party. Don't interfere in our marriage. Victor scratched his head and said to me, Sister-in-law, Jack got married again yesterday afternoon. He's someone else's husband now. You need to move on. I stubbornly looked at my husband. Honey, didn't you say it was just a fake divorce and we would get back together? Emma snorted. If he didn't lie to you, wouldn't you be clinging to him like a leech, refusing to let go? Enough, my husband shouted, scolding Emma harshly. Then he pulled me aside to a corner. Honey, I'm sorry, but Emma took advantage of me when I was drunk and slept with me. She's pregnant with my child. If I don't take responsibility, she'll ruin my reputation. I had no choice but to marry her. Honey, believe me, I only love you. I sniffled. Really? He nodded. If I didn't have feelings for you, why would I give you the house and the savings? But you already have a child with someone else. Honey, once she has the baby, I'll divorce her and remarry you. I need to keep her calm for now. That way, our losses will be minimal. Honey, you've always been understanding. Please, understand my situation. I told him I could understand. Chapter 26. My husband led me over and gave Emma a warning glance, with the demeanor of the rightful wife. I said to Emma, Emma, thank you for giving my husband a child. And thank you for taking care of his physical needs when he was busy with work. For the sake of the child, I'm willing to step aside. You should take good care of my husband from now on. When he's drunk, you'll need to undress him and clean him up. In the morning, he likes sandwiches and milk. He loves spicy food. But make sure not to. I listed many things to be mindful of when taking care of my husband. The people around us were already stunned. They all started praising me for being so gracious and virtuous. I added, if you two are ever too busy, I can take you to your prenatal checkups. I can even help take care of you during your postpartum recovery. My husband's child is my child. After all, honey, my husband looked at me with affection. I looked back at him too. Emma couldn't take it anymore. Camila, don't you have any shame? Your husband is mine now. You're divorced. Can you stop calling him husband every other word? And seriously, you're so clingy. Can't you live without him? I don't want to see you anymore. Get lost. I felt wronged. My husband angrily said, Emma, watch your attitude. In fact, you should be calling her sister. Sister, my foot. Emma tried to rush over to hit me. Startled, I quickly hid behind Victor. My husband stopped her and even slapped her. Have you had enough of your tantrum? You've completely embarrassed yourself. Chapter 27. This kind of drama between a wife and a mistress was all too common at their company. It wasn't even that shocking anymore. Victor rubbed his chin, enjoying the show, and said to me, I have to admit, I can't tell who's the real wife and who's the mistress. After the chaos settled, I said, forget it. Husband, no. Jack, you should just be with Emma now. She's the hero of your family, giving you an heir. I then turned to Emma. Thank you, Emma, for having a child with my ex-husband. I sighed and added, you two don't need to argue because of me. I'll step aside voluntarily. I don't want anyone fighting because of me. It would make me sad. Someone nearby said, it's been a long time since I've seen such a considerate and virtuous woman. Why would Jack give up on such an understanding woman? Jack didn't give up. This woman will be devoted to Jack for life. Even without a title, Jack's about to enjoy the best of both worlds. I wouldn't be surprised. That was probably his plan all along. Chapter 28. Jack looked at me with a mix of heartache and guilt. I gently took out his health check report from my bag and said, Jack, your health report came in. I brought it for you. I haven't looked at it yet. In the past, I would have gone over it with you. Now, that privilege belongs to another woman. He took it from me. Dazed, I hugged him and said, I'm leaving. Then I grabbed my bag and walked away, leaving everyone with an unforgettable image of my back. Victor quickly said, Jack, I'll go see her off. Chapter 29. I hailed a taxi by the roadside, and Victor followed me into the car. He hugged me and started kissing me. I pushed him, What are you doing? He looked at me eagerly. I miss you so much, sister-in-law. The driver glanced at us with disgust. I started crying. Are you even human? I just got divorced. And you're already acting like this. He hugged me and tried to comfort me. Don't cry. Don't cry. You still have me, right? When we got home, he pressed me onto the sofa, ready to go at it. I half-heartedly resisted and told him to be gentle. Chapter 30. A few days passed, and I still hadn't figured out how to get Victor, this irresponsible rich boy, to marry me. He seemed to like me, but he kept calling me sister-in-law. I felt like he was just into married women. I hadn't come up with a solution yet when Jack called me. His voice sounded tired. Honey, I'm at the hospital. Can you come see me? I was surprised that he was only calling me now. His voice was low. I have liver cancer. I gasped. What? How could this happen? He said, if it weren't for your concern and pushing me to get a health check, I wouldn't have found out. Honey, can you come see me? I hesitated. It's not that I don't want to come, but I'm pregnant now, so it's not good for me to be at the hospital. There's a lot of radiation. You're pregnant? His voice was full of disbelief. We haven't been together in months. How are you pregnant? I've been swimming a lot. Maybe it's because of the pool. Anyway, honey, I'll light incense and pray to our ancestors for their blessing to help you recover. Chapter 31. I hung up the phone, turned off my phone, and picked up my tablet to play. The door opened again. I'm currently staying at Victor's place. I looked at him in surprise. Why are you back? He looked at me, incredulous. You're pregnant? I was planning to drop this news as my trump card, but now, I wasn't sure how to handle it. I could only nod. I said, this baby is yours. I haven't slept with my husband in a long time. He replied, no wonder you asked about my family's medical history the other day. I hugged him, speaking softly. Victor, let's get married. Let's give the baby a proper home. I promise I'll be an understanding wife. You can fool around outside, and I won't interfere. As long as he brings the money home, it's fine. He looked at me with curiosity. Then he laughed. He laughed so handsomely. Sure, let's get married. Chapter 32. I wanted to get the marriage certificate quickly. Better to act fast before anything unexpected happens. After all, he looks like he's rich. But I'm also worried he might just be a pretty face with no substance. He could end up sucking me dry. So, I found my best friend. I arranged for us all to have dinner together. My best friend said to Victor, Camila's mother died in a car accident. Her father remarried, and she was abused by her father and stepmother. Then she was cheated on in her marriage. She's had such a tragic life. You have to treat her well. Victor nodded obediently. I will definitely treat her well. Then he even held my hand, looking deeply in love. I looked at him just as lovingly. Chapter 33. My best friend continued. Camila doesn't have her family to support her, so I can't stay out of this wedding. Camila is pure and kind. She doesn't care about much. But let me be honest, women suffer a lot in marriage, paying a high price for childbirth, while men only get the joy. I don't support Camila getting married right now, especially since she just went through betrayal in her last marriage. But she's determined to marry you, deeply in love with you. I'm really afraid you'll betray her too. After all, your character is. My best friend made an expression that was hard to describe. I quickly said, hey, don't speak about him like that. He just couldn't help it. He didn't mean to be a third party. We're truly in love. Victor nodded quickly. I will definitely treat Camila well from now on. My best friend glared at me in frustration. You're always siding with him. You're not even married yet. What can I say? You're just a hopeless romantic. I protested. I'm not just a romantic. I really love Victor. I leaned on Victor, looking sweetly at my best friend. Chapter 34. My best friend pointed at me and said to Victor, she's a fool. I really can't trust her to handle things. There are too many things she won't think about. Let's talk about the wedding first. By the way, how much are you planning to give as the bride price? Victor hesitated and looked at me. I said, I don't care about the bride price. I only care about you. My best friend frowned. Then I won't agree to this marriage. I pouted. You're my family now. How can it work if you don't agree? Victor glanced at me, then at my best friend, and said, 880,000 yuan? Is that okay? I don't have much cash on hand right now. I was immediately moved. When I married my ex-husband, the bride price was only 380,000. Now, as a second-time bride, the price has gone up. He really does like married women. My best friend covered her mouth and laughed a little. Exchanging a glance with me, she said, it's not about the money. What we care about is sincerity. Since we've agreed on the bride price, what about your salary in the future? My salary will be handed over. Chapter 35. We quickly went to get our marriage certificate. Better to act fast before anything unexpected happens. I also received the bride price and his salary card. He doesn't earn as much as my ex-husband yet, but he'll probably live longer than my ex-husband. After we got the marriage certificate, he finally took me to meet his parents. He hid the fact that I had been married before. He told them I was pregnant, and that I had a respectable job, though the salary was low, but at least I was a teacher, didn't need to work overtime, and could take care of the family. His family, seeing that I was pregnant, begrudgingly accepted me. They wanted to hold the wedding before my belly started showing. Chapter 36. Unexpectedly, Jack came to find me again. He looked so thin, almost unrecognizable. My eyes immediately turned red with tears, and I said with concern, honey, oh, no, Jack, how did you end up looking like this? Jack's angry expression softened instantly. His eyes reddened. Honey, I miss you so much. Have you really abandoned me? I bit my lip. It's not that I don't want you, but you're already married to Emma. How could I? Boo-hoo. He said. I've already divorced her. When she found out I had liver cancer, she aborted the baby. How could she do that? When you need her the most. How could she leave you? I said angrily. I can't believe I thought she was a good person. Honey, come back to me. I won't live much longer. I know that in this world. Only you truly love me. I want to spend my remaining days with you. Just as he was speaking, the elevator opened, and Victor walked out. Chapter 37. When Victor saw Jack, he greeted him warmly. Hey Jack, how are you feeling? Any better? Jack frowned. What are you doing here? The apartment upstairs, the wedding house, is being renovated, so I'm staying here for the time being, Jack responded. Aw, congratulations. You're getting married. He looked at me. Did you rent out the apartment? Are you that short on money? Can't you pay the mortgage now? I can't make money anymore, honey. How about selling one of the apartments? The doctor mentioned there's a miracle drug, but I need money for it. I looked at him in horror. This terminal illness, and he's still hoping for a miracle drug? Honestly, I couldn't bear to tell him he was wasting his money. After all, most of it was money he had earned. Chapter 38. Honey, you can't pay the mortgage? Victor asked, confused. Didn't I give you my salary card? Isn't that enough? How about I ask my parents to lend me some money and settle your balance for you? Then he turned to Jack. Jack, why don't you come in and have a seat? Jack's expression froze, as if he had been struck by lightning. He asked incredulously, You too, what's your relationship? He looked like he was going to collapse, trembling and on the verge of falling apart. Victor held my hand and obediently said, Jack, we're married, with papers and everything. Oh, and our wedding is next month. You're our matchmaker, so you absolutely have to attend. Jack spat out a mouthful of blood and passed out. I called an ambulance for him. Watching the ambulance speed away, I sighed. Nothing is more important than health. Chapter 39. The situation with Jack wasn't over yet. He called me, and there was no love in his voice anymore. Camila, when did you start hooking up with Victor? I completely misjudged you. I felt wronged, honey, after I left you. I was so lonely. Victor comforted me. I admit, I shouldn't have betrayed you, but I truly love him. True love is not a crime. He started coughing violently. Give me my money back. You two-timing woman. the savings and the house. They're all mine. The divorce agreement was very clear. I can't go back on my word. Unlike you, who betrayed me the moment you made your vows. I'm not that kind of person. I hung up the phone with righteous indignation. Then, feeling wronged, I hugged Victor and said, "He hurt me so much, and now he wants to take back the compensation he gave me. I never knew he was this kind of person." Victor was peeling an apple for me. He had quit his job at the securities company. He had taken over one of his father's companies. "Ignore him," Victor said. "I told you from the beginning, he's no good." Chapter 40. Jack came to my school to confront me. His parents were there too. The moment they saw me, they started yelling, "You little tramp. You cheated on our son, tricked him into a divorce, and ran off with all his money. Now our son is sick and has no money for treatment. You heartless woman. Give the money back to our son, or we'll ruin your career." Someone had already pulled out their phone and started recording. I cried and asked Jack, "Honey, is this what you told your parents?" Jack's face was cold. "Sell the house. Give me the money. I need it. Don't give me that emotional nonsense." I looked at him in disappointment, shaking my head. "You cheated on me. And now you're accusing me. You've always taken advantage of my love for you to do whatever you wanted." His mother came over and shoved me, and I hit the wall, clutching my stomach as I slowly sat down. Chapter 41. The ambulance came rushing over. I clutched my stomach, crying out in pain. The police arrived too. The three of them were taken into custody. In the end, after mediation by the police, they paid me 20,000 yuan. And the matter was settled privately. Sitting in the car, Victor coldly stared at Jack and said, "If you dare lay a hand on her again, don't blame me for what happens next." Jack's eyes were red with desperation. "Camila, it's my fault. I'm begging you. Can we split the money 50-50? I need the money now for the special treatment." I sighed. "How much is each injection?" 700,000 yuan per shot. 1 shot a month. I looked at him, filled with pity. He had indeed earned a lot of money, but at this rate, he wouldn't last long. After hesitating for a while, I finally said, "Then go ahead and sue me." Chapter 42. By the time the lawsuit is over, he'll probably be gone. Victor got into the car, while Jack continued shouting, "Camila, you can't do this to me. You can't. You used to be so obedient." I still felt I should kindly help him out a bit, and said, "Honey, oh no, Jack, you're too anxious right now, which is why you're not thinking straight. Think carefully. How much money can you really get from me? You know so many rich people. Shouldn't you be focusing on them instead?" I sincerely suggested, "Throw a few more parties. Collect some gift money. That should last you a while." I shook my head. "Or maybe you should start planning your own funeral." Chapter 43. The car drove away. I went home, took leave from work, and rested in bed, taking care of the baby. The very next day, both Victor and I received a digital invitation. It was for Jack's divorce celebration. The title read, "Divorced Twice in 1 Month, The Tragic Fate of a Middle-Aged Man." Victor laughed and sent him 100,000 yuan. With a message, "I feel for your story, but I'll take care of your wife." I also sent him 9,999 yuan as a gift, with a message, "I'm not like Emma, who left you when she found out you were sick. If I had known earlier, I would have never divorced you, no matter what. But what can I do? Fate played a trick on us, and I've found a new beginning. Don't be sad or upset because of me, because I would really feel bad for you." Chapter 44. On the day of our wedding, Jack threw another party. The name of the event was "A Final Farewell, If You're My Brother. You'll be there." Victor and I didn't have time to attend. Victor sent another gift of money. He gave 25,000 yuan. I sent 999 yuan. With a message, "I've saved some wedding candy for you. I hope you find true love soon." He immediately replied, "Save the bouquet for me too. I heard it's made entirely of gold." I looked at the golden bouquet in my hand, took a photo, and sent it to him. "I can print this photo and burn it for you." "Shoo, don't tell my husband. He'll get mad." He typed for a long time, but nothing came through. Chapter 45. The fact that I had been married before eventually got out. It was Emma who told my in-laws. My in-laws stared at me and Victor in fury. Biting my lip, I apologized. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. If you can't accept me, I can leave. Victor also apologized. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. The truth is, I like men. I've deceived everyone, including Camila. This marriage is a sham. His parents immediately sat down in shock, exchanging horrified looks, and scolded. Don't talk nonsense. You're the only heir of our family. His mother then added, it's fine if you've been divorced. Really? It's fine, it just means you're still in demand. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and they called security to kick Emma out. After the wedding, I asked my best friend to help me make a PowerPoint. We sent it to Emma's colleagues at her company. We also posted it online, using Jack's name. It accused Emma of relentlessly chasing after him, only to abandon him when she found out he had a terminal illness, and even aborting his only child. People on Weibo ate up the drama. Very quickly, they sympathized with me, the victim, especially after I nearly had a miscarriage from being shoved. Emma was fired. Jack's reputation was ruined too, but he's incredibly smart and capable. He used the attention to launch a live streaming business, selling products. Chapter 46. When I gave birth, Jack came to visit me. He looked radiant, saying that he had been receiving special treatment injections. He had regained his previous graceful demeanor and even brought along a new girlfriend. Then he said, Camila, I think we should do a paternity test on the baby, just in case it's my child. Victor, who was changing the baby's diaper, suddenly froze. My smile also stiffened. Jack, as if it were the most natural thing, said, is there a problem with what I'm saying? I had already done a paternity test long ago, when the baby was still in the womb. We had done the test. If it wasn't Victor's, would he have married me so easily? Jack's face paled for a moment. He said in disbelief, the baby was born full term. You two must have been together since July of last year, and we didn't divorce until September. He pointed at me with a trembling hand. And you had the nerve to accuse me of cheating? Chapter 47. I didn't cheat. Victor isn't a third party either. I insisted. We're truly in love. Jack was so furious he fainted. No wonder we were once married. We were both equally naive. 6 months later, Jack still passed away. I quietly lit a candle for him. Extra story. Chapter 1. From the moment Victor first laid eyes on Camila, he liked her. It was lust at first sight. He just wanted to sleep with her. He noticed that she seemed to have some interest in him too, but she didn't take the bait. Chapter 2. It wasn't until he told her that her husband was cheating on her that she began to waver. He had originally just wanted to have some fun, but then, she ended up pregnant. He had no choice but to accept it. Besides, this woman was truly both crazy and ruthless. If he didn't agree, who knows what she might do. Chapter 3. To be fair, she was also a good wife and mother. She kept the house in perfect order. Even though she was his proper wife, she gave off the impression of being a mistress. She knew how to act cute, play innocent, show weakness, and cry. She was beautiful too, a woman you'd be proud to show off. He accepted it. The main thing was, now that there was a child, he found the whole situation rather intriguing. Chapter 4. And so the two of them muddled through life together. There were always women around Victor, trying to tempt him, but it seemed like he had been worn out by it all. Camila, that crazy woman, said her first marriage failed because her husband went looking for other women. So, to make her second marriage successful, they had to have sex every night. Every night. Even when he had to take medicine, they still had to do it. Her best friend somehow got her some sort of pills. After he took them, he felt completely drained. Forget about looking for other women. He couldn't even get out of bed in the morning. One day, he looked in the mirror. He saw that Camila looked radiant, glowing with health. But as for him, he looked like a ghost of a man. Chapter 5. Camila noticed him looking at her and leaned closer. Her tone playful, her eyes sultry. Want more? His legs went weak. He quickly shook his head, but she had already grabbed hold of him. He was forced into it again. There's a saying, there are no fields too worn to be plowed, only oxen too exhausted. Chapter 6. Thankfully, she got pregnant with their second child. He could finally rest for a while. Now, whenever he saw a woman, his legs would go weak. Why had he ever thought that Camila looked like a little bunny, big-chested, easy to control, and fun to play with? She was going to kill him with all her fun. Chapter 7. Camila's best friend came to visit her again. The two of them lay in bed, chatting and giggling mischievously from time to time. Victor felt his scalp tingle whenever her best friend showed up. It was never a good sign. Sure enough, that night, after the baby had fallen asleep, Camila waved him over. "Honey, come here, I've got a surprise for you." He took a step back. He didn't want any surprises. He didn't want any more excitement. He just wanted to live out the rest of his life in peace.